Well, hi everyone, and welcome to session 4 of the SALT Lunchbox. My name's Dave. I'm the founder of SALT Sport and Life Training. We're a not-for-profit health education company that normally presents in clubs and workplaces on a range of topics related to wellbeing and mental health, leadership and culture. Our goal for our Lunchbox series is to inspire and connect you, our audience. To do that, each day we're going to be introducing a topic that we hope will inspire you to take action that will benefit both you and those who you love and care for. We're also asking you to connect with each other during our webinar by telling us your story, responding to our prompts and asking questions where you seek more information. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see both the chat and Q&A icons, so please use these throughout the webinar. We'd love to know who you are and where you're from, so please take a moment to write in our chat. Once again, we'd like to express our deep appreciation to our sponsors, Eastland, Bendigo Bank and FC Business Solutions, for your generosity in allowing us to present these webinars free of cost. Okay, today, positive interruptions is the topic. And as I sat down to write today's message, I asked my wife, how many weeks have we been in isolation for? About 1, she replied. I thought, it feels like about 4. Have you ever been through something in the past where at the time you thought to yourself, this really sucks, I'm not really enjoying this, I want this to end. And then years later you look back at it and you think, I actually really enjoyed that time. I reckon camping's often like that, or hiking is another one that comes to mind. And there's been holidays where while I'm away I've just thought, I can't wait to get home, and yet looking back on those holidays I've thought that those holidays were great. And I remember when our kids were at home, and sometimes they used to drive me mad when they were so exhausting, and how I would crave just a little bit of uninterrupted peace. And now our kids have left home and I get heaps of uninterrupted peace, and I miss those kids and those noisy times so much. Sometimes we can't see the value of something until we look back. So how will we look back on this period of isolation? I have a letter sent to me by my dear friend Nan from the Bendigo Bank. Her name is Nan, and you would love for her to be your Nan because she's that kind of lady. And this is a letter from a teacher in China reflecting on lockdown. She says the following. I'll read you the letter. We're just finishing our 7th week of e-learning, 7 weeks of being mainly housebound, and 7 weeks of uncertainty. We are healthy, we are happy, and we are humbled. We're allowed to move around freely now with a green QR code that we show when we get our temperature taken. You get your temperature taken everywhere, and it's just become part of the routine. Most restaurants and shopping centres are now open, and life is coming back to our city. As we watch the rest of the world begin their time inside, here are some of my reflections on the last 7 weeks. Number 1, accept that you have no control over the situation. Let go of any thoughts of trying to plan too much for the next month or 2. Things change so fast. Don't be angry and annoyed at the system. Anxiety goes down and you make the best of the situation, whatever that might be for you. Accept that this is what it is and things will get easier. Try not to listen to or read or watch too much media. It will drive you crazy. There is a thing as too much. Number 3, the sense of community I've felt during this time is incredible. I could choose who I wanted to spend my energy on, who I wanted to call, message and connect with. And I found the qualities of my relationships have improved. Number 4, appreciate this enforced downtime. When do you ever have time like this? I will miss it when we go back to the fast-paced speed of the real world. Number 5, time will go fast. I still haven't picked up the ukulele I plan to learn, and there are box sets of TV shows I haven't watched yet. Number 6, as a teacher, the relationships I've built with my students have only continued to grow. I've loved seeing how independent they are, filming themselves to respond to tasks while they're learning essential life skills such as balance, risk-taking, and problem solving, that even we as adults are still learning. Number 7, you learn to appreciate the little things. Sunshine through the window, flowers blossoming, and being able to enjoy a coffee in a cafe. So I'm going to go back now through that letter and just revisit a few of the things that she says and flesh them out a little bit, and then we'll go to our panel. We've got the same panel today of Lane and Ed, but we're going to be bringing in some guests over the next few weeks. Let's just go back through that letter. Number one, she says, accept that you have no control over the situation. We need to understand that in this life, there are going to be some things we can control and some things that we can't. And learning what we can't control and letting go of it is really important to free up the energy that we have to invest into the things that we can control. She says, make the most of the situation. And I think we need to be really deliberate about how we spend our time in isolation to benefit ourselves and our others. We need to recognise that we're going to be better off than some and worse off than others. And as we look at the infection and death rates in other countries, we realise how incredibly blessed we are to be living in Australia. But I often meet people who say, I know that others are worse off than me. And I think this is actually a really good coping strategy to recognise and keep things in perspective, that there are always going to be others doing it more hard than we are. And as we spoke about in the gratitude session, when we realise that and we start to invest into others, we actually help ourselves. She says, don't be angry and annoyed at the system. A lot of people use blame as a coping technique, but it actually doesn't work. For a short time when we blame someone else, it allows us to transfer our anger to someone else. But in the long run, this causes bitterness and it eats away at us. It's an unproductive use of our energy. She says not to listen or watch to too much media. And I think we do actually have to listen and watch the media, or we're going to be anxious about what we don't know. But I'd say just don't become too obsessed with listening to it all the time, and redirect some of that time into watching or reading something that helps you grow and feel good. Be careful about the people you talk to as well. In clubs, we talk about who's in your grandstand. And if we're playing sport, we recognise that in the grandstand or in the crowd are going to be people, some of them are going to be yelling for you, some of them are going to be yelling against you. And if you listen to everybody, you're probably going to get confused and hurt. So we talk in the clubs, who's in your circle of trust? Again, after a game of footy, you come into the rooms, you put your arms around each other's shoulders and you sing the club song. And you've earned the right to do that. And people need to earn the right to be within your circle of trust, that you listen to their voice. We need to make sure that the people we listen to have our best interests at heart, that they speak wisely, that they don't bring us down. She talks about new communities arising, and aren't we seeing that now? We're seeing new communities like this one in this particular webinar getting stronger, but also our existing communities getting stronger. We can choose, as she said, who we want to spend time with or who we don't want to spend time with virtually. Of course, we can't spend time with them physically. And we're meeting new people, again, in the virtual world with similar mindsets and values to our own. I think the internet world can draw us together into like-minded groups. We're learning who has needs around us and we can reach out to them. And I think that's really exciting. We may right now be making lifelong friends at the moment with people that we might otherwise have not met. She says to appreciate this enforced downtime. You know, we live in this busy world where it seems that the newest status symbol is always this word busy. You ask someone how they're going and they go, oh, I'm so busy, I'm just so busy. And I get a little bit sick of hearing from people, oh, you're so busy, you're so busy. And for the first time, I'm not hearing that from people. I ring them and they answer their phones, or I say, when can we catch up online? And they go, oh, pretty much any time. So our biggest complaint used to be that we had no time, but now we have these margins. And they're wonderful things to have. She says that after 7 weeks, there are things that she planned to do that she still hasn't done yet. What are you going to do during this time that you may not have had a chance to do otherwise? I actually have been playing my ukulele. I won't play it for you now unless we get so many requests. Then I probably will. I've actually done a jigsaw puzzle, the first one probably since a child. 99 pieces on the iPad. Didn't even go out and buy one. She talks about how her students have learnt so much and how independent they are. What have you been forced to learn that you wouldn't have learnt were it not for these circumstances? Most of us have learnt a great deal about technology. We've learnt to do so many things differently and better than we could have. And I was reading this morning in the paper about mums and dads at home sharing the parenting and domestic duties to an extent that they have never done before and enjoying it. Businesses are talking about being more efficient in the ways that they do things now. Some businesses are saying they'll never return to the old way of doing things. And what are our kids learning when they're having to find new ways to learn, new ways to entertain themselves? So hopefully this has created some really creative, self-driven, ongoing learning, and that's wonderful. She says she now greatly appreciates the little things that she used to take for granted. And I reckon we're going to need to sometimes miss something to recognise how much we actually appreciated it in the past. Lastly, she says, to those just beginning this journey, you will get through it. Listen to what you're told, follow the rules, and look out for each other. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I like that she says, do what you're told. I've never been all that good at following rules. I've often thought, oh, that's a dumb rule. And if it's a dumb rule, I sometimes choose not to follow it. But I've had to learn during this time the importance of being a team player. And we don't always trust our authorities for good reason. But right now, like in a time of war, we have to follow our leaders and do what we're told. This takes humility, but good teams do it all the time. So it's time for us to think like a team. So 3 takeaway points from today, and I'll bring the slide up afterwards. Focus on what you can control and accept what you can't. Choose carefully who and what you listen to. And number 3, enjoy and maximise the many benefits of this enforced downtime. We're going to go to our panel, and hopefully our panel will come on screen. Hello, Ed. Hello, Wayne. Like that fancy new background with the white, and Ed, you always look good with any background.
Yeah, it looks good, mate. It looks good.
You do look good. Your hair looks good. What have you managed to do with this time that you may not have had a chance to do otherwise? Ed, what have you managed to fit in?
Playing games. We've, as a family, we've always enjoyed playing games, but I think I've always made excuses for why I couldn't. And we had a great afternoon yesterday with family playing Articulate. It was just awesome. Speaking of, my phone, I'll now turn it off, and my daughter ringing me, probably to congratulate ourselves because we might have been the victors yesterday. So
great. What about you, Lane?
We've done lots of fun things, mate. I'm a bit similar to yourself. I did some 1,000, a bit more challenging than 99 pieces. Lara and I did 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle out the back the other day. We put a bit of music on, we had a glass of wine, and we sat there in the sunshine and did a puzzle. I can't remember the last time I did that. Yesterday we set up a little gym in the lounge room at home. We moved everything away and we set up a little circuit, and we had all 5 of us doing a little circuit in the lounge room together. So just lots of little fun, different exercises that we would never do as a family otherwise.
Yeah, I think we're finding new ways to exercise. They reckon that all the shops ran out of gym equipment before just about anything else, but you can use a chair for all sorts of good reasons.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
Can do dips and what have you. I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in. Welcome to John from Ormiston, Brisbane. Isn't that exciting? And Melanie and Steve and a whole bunch of people. James Gallagher, who's a regular contributor, I'll read what he says. I read a great book by an Australian author, Larry Quick, called Disrupted. That sounds good. It is all about strategies for exponential change. An example, Uber disrupted the share ride business. What are our disruptors and how will we leverage them? So terrific. Good to have Merrin from the farm in central Victoria. In this environment, small distractions can be a joy. And Tim, I think that is, I can't quite see his name, finally started some free online learning through Deakin Uni. Lisa, lots of Zoom coffee catch-ups. We've organised a Thai dinner with friends tomorrow night on Zoom. We usually catch up with them in person and have Thai, but we're going to do it this way on Zoom tomorrow. What have you learnt to do, guys, that you couldn't have otherwise before this time? What are some of your learnings?
I've learnt to, I guess, savour time and not squeeze too many things onto my to-do list. I don't have to, and therefore spend a little bit more time doing things, savouring the moment. So being intentional about being present and use that and the mindfulness that comes with that. And I think that slowing down has been just so beneficial for me personally. So I guess it feels a little bit selfish because I sort of have all this time, but it's just been wonderful to maximise that time. So learning how to do that without feeling guilty.
Mm. And how about you, Lane? Have you taught yourself anything new?
Oh, yeah, lots of things, mate. I'm working on some online programs and developing a little bit of content there. So that's been great to do something that I've actually wanted to do for probably, 2 or 3 years and never had the time to do it. So, but one of the things I think I'm learning, and I was talking to some people this morning about it, I don't know whether anyone else experienced this, and I'd love to see if there were some comments that come up. This weekend I found difficult. This weekend was the first weekend that I found I felt a bit flat, and I felt a bit like I'd lost a bit of spark and a bit of energy. And I was talking to some other people. They had a similar experience. And so one of the things that I think I've learned is just how to manage calm, how to be calm, and how to not be distracted by all the stuff that's going on around me, and just to kind of sit with the frustration of what's happening and just to be okay with it. So I think that's been a big learning for me.
I'm going to bring up about the teacher in that letter talking about how the community of kids that she was teaching have become more motivated about learning and more connected. Ed, as a teacher yourself, tell us about the importance of a strong community for our kids at school when it comes to motivation and learning, and how perhaps in this online phase, parents listening or kids listening or teachers listening might use this opportunity to create those stronger connections, and what happens to our education when we're invested and motivated and not feeling resentful but feeling connected.
Look, I think this notion of sense of belonging has long been known as a resilience factor, not only while students are at school, but long into adulthood, reflecting back on their time at school favourably. The connection to even just one teacher has been known to be this resilience factor. And I think I really love that part of the letter, Dave, and I know we had a discussion about that here's an opportunity for us to move a little bit away from curriculum and really focus on well-being. As you know, my job is around building well-being infrastructures within schools. And I think here's a time for us to have conversations with our students that go beyond the curriculum and build these connections that when this time is over, we go back into our classrooms knowing more, and that students feel that they're seen, that they belong, and that they'll come in more motivated, I think, and self-determined in their approach to learning. And because relationships is a big, big part of motivation. And I think we don't appreciate that as much because we walk into a classroom, there's 25 kids there, and we just assume that we're in relationship, but we're not. And I think this time provides us with an enormous opportunity to build those close connections.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine if you were to ask a kid in class how they're going, they wouldn't answer too much because everybody's listening, but you've got that chance to do that, haven't they?
Yeah, and you're often rushed for time, Dave. And I think it's not just relevant for, schools are workplaces too. So I think, as staff, we're going to be checking in on one another too. We're going to have to be intentional and one-on-one. We're not just going to walk into the staff room and do a little wave and say, "G'day, everyone." We're actually going to be in meaningful conversations. So I think there's a real challenge for us as we work at home to maybe spend 5 minutes at the beginning of every day and the end of every day just connecting in with one or two people. You don't have to do it every day. It might be a bit annoying. But just pick one person, and it may be someone that you don't always spend quality time with, and just ask them how they're going. Perhaps send them a little meme or something, just that there's a shared experience between us. I think it's something that we all can do a little bit of, and I think that'll make a big difference.
Terrific. I'm going to read a few more comments. Good to have Dylan Cuttress from, again, Central Victoria. Perfect time to be getting back and reading the Resilience Project's books. Darren enjoys pre-breakfast walks with his partner. And Neil from ChildSafe. The thing for me is that at first I was frustrated, which lasted a few days. Then I decided that I would use this time as a bit of a reset. What do I need to reset in my life now? My work ethic, my fitness, my eating, my relationships. It's been really helpful for me. And I've turned off every other media outlet other than the Prime Minister and the Premier. So there we go. Elise is propagating plants. Terrific. And the shift to daylight saving, Easter coming. Not sure what that one's about.
Dave, I just wanted to pick up on Dylan's comment here.
Yep.
He had a leadership team. As his leadership team in a school, it looks like Dylan is in a school, we have concerns about the well-being of a lot of our students. And I think as all of us, as teachers, we do. And one of the things that Daniel Andrews has said is that schools may open for vulnerable students and for students of essential workers. It's going to be hard to check in with many of our students not having access to the internet at home. As staff, we can catch up, but we may not see or talk to our kids for a whole term. Again, I think we need to use traditional means and pick up the phone. I think we also need to think around in schools, our ES staff, our educational support staff, who are really great at connecting with kids. And I just wonder whether they can be utilised to check in with kids too. Just thinking around the roles that staff have and maybe being a little bit more creative. But then as staff, we can pick up the phone where we know that students may not get connected with, particularly if they are the isolate students that don't have friends that will naturally connect. So perhaps it's about looking at our classes, seeing who needs to have check-in and just maybe even making sure that students connect with one another. But I think it is going to be a really important function of what we do as teachers, even if curriculum is sacrificed a little bit in preference for this.
And can I just ask a quick question about that? Like, you talk a lot about, the growth of teachers out of this process. What are we going to do differently? But what about the growth of the kids? What do you think is going to be the most important area of growth for them coming out of the back of this? I mean, what changes are you going to see in the way kids relate to school as opposed to just the way that teachers relate to children?
I don't think we're going to have to make big changes as teachers, because I think the one thing that students are going to come back with is more self-determination in terms of their learning. So they're going to love the autonomy. They're not going to have that control. Relationship, self-determination is made up of three parts. It's made, without being too sciencey, it's made up of autonomy, it's made up of relationships, and it's made up of competence, which is sort of the skill-based stuff. If we can build the relationships bit, we're giving them more autonomy, which they really do lack at times in school, then they're going to be motivated to actually be self-determined in their learning. And so at times we're holding students back. We're going to have to be putting more in front of them. We're going to be trusting them more with their learning. And we've got to be ready for that. And I think personally, we're going to see a huge jump in student outcomes after this. And we're going to be prepared for that.
I want to just move on to this notion of blaming. Over the weekend, we read a lot about the Pacific Princess and a lot of information about how the coronavirus began in China and how there was suppression of the knowledge of that to the rest of the world community. And it felt like we could indulge in a lot of reading where we could get quite angry at perpetrators who showed perhaps negligence. But why do we do this, Lane? Why do we default to blaming? What's the outcome when we start doing this?
Oh, mate, we just hate things being taken away from us. In fact, we hate things 4 times more likely. It's 4 times more likely to hate something that's taken away from us than something that we actually, want or we aspire to, right? So there's this huge ratio where if you remove something away from us that's part of who we are and it's part of my structure and rhythm and it's part of, my life, I get really annoyed and frustrated. Now, when someone takes something from me, then someone needs to be responsible for that. And so we look around and we look for, all of those pieces that might be responsible, whether they're systems and structures or whether it's, a prime minister or whether it's a local government or whether it's the police force or my local coffee shop closing down. We lash out at those people because they've removed something that was of value to us that we really liked and appreciated. And now I'm having to adjust to something that is less comfortable than what it was that I had before. So we don't like it, and someone's going to pay a price.
No, thanks for that. What do you think you're going to appreciate more when this time is finished? What do you think, Ed?
I'm going to appreciate time more, and the fact that I think I didn't enjoy perhaps time as much because I tried to squeeze too many things in. And I've been intentional about cutting back on that, probably because my calendar's opened up quite a lot. And I think I'll really try, and I think we also thought we had to face a lot. And I've loved Zoom. And I think I can take that into my new way of working so that I don't have to be in the city, and I live in Talangi, which is 2 hours out into the Yarra Valley. So I can perhaps give myself a little bit of time by utilising these technologies that have really supported us. So I appreciate taking that and perhaps working more efficiently.
Yeah. What about you, Lane?
For me, it's about friends, mate. I reckon up until this point in time, I've probably taken some of my friendship groups a bit for granted. And they've sort of fitted in around my life and the work that I do and my travel and all those sorts of other things. But now I'm actually really missing them. Now I've got this urge to kind of connect and to rebuild some of those relationships. So I can't wait for us to get out of kind of self-imposed quarantine and to get out and see some friends and to spend some quality time with them.
Yeah, I said to my wife, let's just go on an outing somewhere. Just drive the car. I don't care where it is. I wonder what our letters will look like to others. You know, if we have 7 weeks or 10 weeks or, half a year in isolation, what would we want our letter to say? Looking back, if we were to read a letter to ourselves, or we were to write a letter to our kids or our grandkids about how we spent this time, what would we want to say? And I guess we want to be really deliberate about really maximising the opportunities that this gives to us. And as we come towards the end, there's been some chat questions that have gone on, some more, and Peter's been taking screenshots of these, and we still haven't as yet set up quite the system that we'd like to be able to follow up on all of the questions, but we're getting our IT, it's catching up to us as we go each time, and our Facebook site is being the major way of doing that. Let me just bring up a couple of quick slides as we go to the end of our session. 3 takeaways from today. Focus on what you can control and accept what you can't. Choose really carefully who and what you listen to, and try to enjoy and maximise the many benefits of this enforced downtime. To access further resources, we are looking to put further resources onto our Facebook site and to have people come onto our assist list if they do need any form of assistance or if you can offer it. And we've set up a poll, and we've had about almost 30 people complete the poll about what you'd like to hear about. So the top topics were how to have those tough conversations. And on Wednesday, we've got an expert in this particular topic, Ian Morehouse, coming in to be part of our panel. And he's going to talk about having really a 1-minute conversation where you address everything you need to in one of these difficult conversations. And I think at the moment, we're probably going to have more of these. We're going to realise some of the things that we've needed to address and haven't. Finding opportunities in tough times is another topic. Identifying and applying our values was a popular one. And how do we create high quality connections when we can't actually interface personally? And we're going to be talking about that on Wednesday, the 15th. We've got another session coming up on on Wednesday, and then we won't have a session on Good Friday or Easter Monday. So we've had a good attendance today, a terrific attendance. We'd love you to let people know about what's happening with what we're doing, and to keep the communication going on our Facebook site. So thank you very much for giving us half an hour of your time. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Lane, for the panel. Sorry that we didn't get through all of the questions, but we had a number today, and again, we'll try to follow those up if we can on our Facebook site if there's something we can add to what you've said. Thank you.
Dave, I've just got one thing to add. I was just going to say, one thing that came up for me was to not feel guilty about what we're not doing, but really enjoy what we are doing. and
Yeah.
taking that
Yeah.
into each day.
Terrific.
Lovely words. Yeah.
Terrific. So remember, everybody, we come out of this particular time in history better, richer and stronger in the things that really matter. Thank you so much for joining us today.